Today we'll build a small project which will be our own personal Python coding bot, and we're going to be using this AI model called the CODE LLAMA, and it's a model by Meta, and it's specifically built for writing really good high quality code. And we're using the 70B model, which is a bigger model because they have multiple in the family. You have 7B, 34B. I think there's also 15B. Then there's obviously this 70B, which is one of, I think, the biggest model from CODE LLAMA. Anyways, so what you can do is you can enter your prompt here and it'll generate some code for you. But to be able to do that, you would need to host this model somewhere, right? It could be running on your local host, could be running on your AWS, or there's this service called Replicate, and they're already running the models. All you have to do is just get their API key, and yeah, that's it. So I would now like to sign in with GitHub. And what you can do is you can go to your dashboard, and we should have the access to the API token somewhere here. Yeah, that's my API token. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I suggest you also do that. This is the one that we'll be needing. So they give you a little bit of free trial, like you can run a few predictions. They call these predictions. You can run a few predictions with the free API key, but then once you've exceeded that, then you'll have to set up billing. Okay. So once you've copied this token, keep it handy, and I'll just go to my project. I'll paste the token, and I'll show you how the project works. I'm running the project on my local host, and I'm using this command streamlit run streamlit app.py, which starts off the server on my local host 8501. That's my port, and I've opened it up on my browser, the same port, localhost 8501. And here I can see a nice little front end which has been built with the help of Streamlit. I'm using CODE LLAMA like I showed you with the help of Replicate. So I've put in my API key now in my project, and that's how I'm able to interact with CODE LLAMA 70B. And I don't have to install this on my personal PC because that would take a long time. And then you can enter your own prompt. So here I've given a prompt, write code to swap strings, and it gives you back a response with some code and also explains the code to you. Now the thing is, when you run this project, it'll take you about a minute to 2 minutes when you enter your prompt to get back the response from CODE LLAMA. The reason for that delay, like 1 minute to 2 minute time, is because you're using an open source LLM, and this is not like OpenAI or Anthropic, which they're running those models on huge infrastructures, and so that's why you get response really quickly. Here you'll have to wait like a minute to get back the response, but it's worth it because it's way cheaper to run to work with open source models. Now what we'll do is I'll take you through the code of the project, and we'll see how this project works. Now I'm Akhil Sharma 90 on GitHub, and the project we're working with today is the CODE LLAMA 70B Replicate. This is the one that you need to clone, and once you've cloned it, we will follow these instructions. So you'll have to run this command called the pip install -r requirements.txt. What that's going to do is it's going to install all the things that I mentioned, all the dependencies that I mentioned in the requirements.txt file, which is Replicate, because we're working with Replicate. That's where the models are hosted, and Streamlit, which helps us build the front end. So these two things will be installed for you. After you run this command, right? After you run the pip install -r requirements.txt command, after this, it will create a .streamlit folder in your project, right? If it doesn't create a .streamlit folder, then you create it yourself, or I think it comes as part of, it comes as part of my project anyways. So you have the .streamlit folder along with the cargo.toml file that you see here, sorry, the config.toml file that you see here. You will also create a secrets.toml file. All right, I'm going to delete this token anyway, so you can take a look. So this is how I've kept the tokens. So you're going to say replicate API token and replicate model endpoint stability. And I'll leave this in. I don't think I have it here. So I'll create like a sample secrets file, and I'll also push it here. So just to make things easier for you guys, right? So, and I'll leave this thing there so that you don't have to struggle to get this. So just replace this with your API token and you're good to go. Then we're going to basically, then you just have to run this project with the streamlit run streamlit app.py. This is the command you'll run. Now what I'll do is I'll explain all the code to you so that you know exactly what we have built and everything then makes sense to you. Okay. Now the most important function here, just like if you've done Golang, if you've done Rust on my channel, right? Golang and Rust, you probably must have seen those videos. Just like that, here also in Python you have a main function. Okay, in the main function, I'm calling different functions which I've created above. So for example, I'm calling the initialize streamlit function, which is this. I've defined the function here. Okay, which initializes streamlit app configuration. Now for these configurations, there are some constants defined on top out here. So here, for example, I set the page config with page titles go to page title. Page title I have defined as CODE LLAMA 70 instruct, which is the name of the model. Page icon I've defined, which will be a llama, and layout would be wide. Then I'm also in the main.go in the main function, I'm also calling the display icon function. I'm calling the setup API token function. I'm calling the customize input function, right? So let's check out all these functions. So the next function I was calling was a display icon function. It displays an emoji as a Notion style page icon. So we display an emoji here. And you see this st.setPageConfig, st.write. This is all to do with Streamlit. So Streamlit write, if you want to write something on the Streamlit front end, this is how you do it. So Streamlit gives you a front end very quickly. You don't have to like build the front end yourself using React and all that. This just makes your life much easier. It gives you a lot of functions out of the box. Setting up the API token for replicate, right? So API token is our variable. st.secrets is able to access the secrets.toml file and get this particular constant, which is the replicate API token. In my case, this one, it's able to get that. And you set the environment with the API token. And then you have your customize input. So if you remember, here we had customize input. So we were able to customize the maximum number of tokens to return in system prompt. And you can do all of that also here. So maximum number of tokens and the system prompt. It's coming from default max tokens and default system prompt, which have been defined here. Default max tokens 2000. Default system prompt is this. You're a Python programming expert. This is where all the magic is happening. So we're telling it that, hey, you're a Python programming expert. Your task is to help users by answering questions related to Python or by executing tasks requested of you. You should always structure code in Markdown format before you respond. If the task is related to Python, blah, 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 then I cannot help anything except with Python. Okay. Now, one thing to note here is this is really important. So if you're building a production level application or anything that you're exposing to the world, make sure you also have a line like this when you're talking, when you're building an LLM application, because otherwise anybody can just come and say, act like you're Taylor Swift, for example, and start chatting with you, right? Because you can't afford to have that happen if you're building like a chatbot for a banking application, because people have done this kind of hacks with LLM chatbots. Make sure you write something like this, then that won't happen. And the best part, right? The best part of this project is that we haven't hosted the model. We are not running the model on our local host. We're running it on Replicate, and that I can't tell you how easy that makes things for us, because now you just have to use it via the API. You don't have to like run it on your system. That takes a lot of time, and you don't need like space and all that to run it. Then you have something called a display chat history, which shows the messages from the user and the assistant. Assistant being the chat, the CODE LLAMA in this case, and user being us. Then we have something called as process prompt. Process prompt is the function where it's talking to replicate, talking to CODE LLAMA via replicate. So it talks to CODE LLAMA because we're passing the model name here. Now you could change the model name here, and you could talk to any other AI model as well via replicate. So this code really works for all other instances as well. So you're going to pass the model name, and then you're going to pass all of these as input. So for example, the prompt that we have received from the user, the max tokens, the system prompt. So max tokens is 2000. As you remember, system prompt is this one, which is you're a Python programming expert, blah, blah, blah. And prompt is what I gave it. So for example, the string swapping program to write. And so it returns the output back to you, and then you display the response. So right, if you look at main function, that's what you're doing. You're customizing the input, then you're displaying the chat history, then you're processing the prompt, which I just showed you, and then you're displaying the prompt, displaying the response. Okay. And displaying the response happens with this function, which is display the model's response. This is the comment, and then you display the response like this, right? So if the output has unwanted text basically has been defined as the source assistant. So we'll remove that part. It's coming from the assistant, and then we'll write assistant, and then we'll write the output text there. And if, which is if some output was returned. So in the output generator, if we received some output, we assign that to output list, and then we print it out. Otherwise, if we didn't get anything, we just say no output received, and we're going to still print it out, right, the output text, and then return the output text. So this is what's happening here in this project. It's just barely 98 lines of code, even less, because a little bit of it is the system prompt, and then there's also a lot of spaces. So give or take like 85-90 lines of code. You have created a full-blown application which talks to CODE LLAMA. It's like your own personal Python, coding bot. You have a front end to it. You're not running the AI model yourself, right? So all of those things have been taken care of. Now, before we end this video, just want to tell you about my new course, which is the 6 AI plus Golang Advanced Projects course, which is 26 hours of detailed content, extremely detailed planning for each of these 6 projects. And all of them are real world production level applications. So you're building like an AI Discord bot, Whisper API bot, Telegram AI bot, Kubernetes AI assistant, Terraform AI copilot, and a very powerful and comprehensive terminal AI assistant. I'll leave the link of this course in the description. Make sure you check it out. And the other things I want to tell you about is that on this channel, I have a lot of playlists. So for example, the AI and LLM projects playlist, which this video will be a part of. Then I have the 50 Rust projects playlist, the 55 killer Golang projects playlist, and the idea is that you start from simple projects and you build all the way up to like monstrous big project, and by the end of this you would have learned Golang and Rust really well. That's the whole idea. And then I also have technology architect course and the system design course as well. So make sure you subscribe and you share this with your friends. All of this knowledge is for free. Share this with people you think can use this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.